Well, consumers are currently facing a high cost of living as the price of a basic food basket has increased by 8.3% in just 1 year. Now, this, of course, means that households, businesses, as well as motorists will have to spend more money on basic necessities such as food and fuel. Additionally, they will also have to bear the cost of high electricity rates and an increase in fuel prices. And all of this will put a significant financial burden on people's pockets. Well, to help us discuss the high cost of living in South Africa, let's welcome Mametlwe Sebei, President of the General Industries Workers Union of South Africa, or GIWUSA. Mametlwe, thank you so much for being with us today. Look, a rather gloomy picture of the current economical climate where consumers are overburdened with debt, with no short-term solution to find reprieve. Can South Africans navigate the rising cost of living, and how?
Absolutely. I think what is even shocking is that when you look at a trend, the situation is getting worse year after a year. I mean, in 2021, it was estimated that about 11 point something, percentage of the population was actually experiencing, hunger. The estimation now is that at 13.8% of the 13.8 million people in this country are living below the poverty line. And of course, some actually researchers, especially from UCT, have argued that actually even the staggering statistics that we're getting from South African Statistics South Africa, actually they underestimate the problem. That the actual levels of upper bound poverty is standing at 2/3 of the population. Now, that's an indictment on the ANC, on the neoliberal policies that they pursued for the past 30 years that has led to an increases in the food prices, in the price of energy, either being the electricity tariffs, but also the oil, the fuels, the price of diesel, of petrol, and other basic fuels like paraffin and gas, which are also an input in the production process, and the increase in their cost also impact an increase in cost of every other thing that are used to produce. And that, I think, is a reality that the ANC is unable to manage.
So basically, there's no, there's no ways that South Africans can mitigate the current economical climate, Mametlwe. I mean, most people, those who are unemployed, those that are lucky to still have jobs, are not coping with the ever-rising costs of living across the spectrum. And then this in turn leads to more crime and causes a long-term ripple effect. Who should be held responsible for the current deteriorating state of the quality of life in our country? And what would you suggest as a solution to this?
Yes, I think there is no solution within the framework of capitalism and its neoliberal policies. There are obviously certain measures that the government can take, like, for instance, regulation of prices. And these are things that happened before. I mean, we are from the system where the price of bread used to be regulated. I think in prior 1994 period. We are also, in a sense, still having regulation of both the price of, Eskom tariffs through NESA, as well as of basic fuels like petrol and so on. The problem is that these regulations on the basis of neoliberalism is done in the interest of the big corporations that monopolize the vast sections of the economy. And when you look, for instance, right, the prices of oil, of petrol and diesel, right, the policies are geared in such a way that they seek to guarantee the profits of the big oil monopolies, the Shells, the BP, the Totals, and so on. And, even where you have a local producer of oil products like Sasol, the import parity pricing is in such a way that it favors this company and allows it to make 30 billion more than it would at the expense of the rest of the economy and indeed majority of the South African people. And it's the same thing with energy prices, right? It is said that the current tariff structure, 21.9% of it has to do with guaranteeing the reasonable rate of returns for the independent power producers. So it is about profitability even when it's government regulated. What do we think is a solution? Look, government does have means. Look at the current newly launched National Petroleum Company. We argue it's an important opportunity with an estimation of over 90 billion capacity that it may have, right? Has the capacity not only to ensure that it provides cheap fuels like diesel, petrol, to ordinary people, and to ensuring that these are accessible and affordable, but in fact, we argue it can lead a green industrial revolution in this country and in the world. Because today, the world is trying to move from fossil fuels that are polluting the planet. One of the basic alternatives to that is hydrogen, the hydrogen fuel and all of that and so on. And for that, you need, platinum group metals, for which South Africa has 80% of the reserves. Now, with that, not only can we produce a clean form of fuel and energy for South Africa, but in actual fact, we can fuel the entire world, leading a revolution. But for that, you need a ruling class with a capacity and ambition to take society forward, and this ruling class does not. And the task of that rests with the working class, which we would argue it needs to make revolution in this country. We need socialism, and we need a mass movement of the working class to bring about that in order to address the energy, the food poverty, but also to bring about the necessary green industrial revolution to address the crisis of climate change and climate justice here and across the world.
So, Mametlwe, you're saying those political solutions are a necessity at a high level. Look, the country will be going to the polls in less than 2 months from now. Basic service delivery, we know, is at an all-time low. And the gap between the poor and the rich keeps on getting wider. But most concerning is that even those referred to as the middle class are also feeling the pinch. And according to the latest data, I mean, how should then South Africans be using this critical time to ensure that they choose wisely on installing leaders that will represent as well as champion their needs?
The problem with this election is that one party that is missing is a credible mass political party of the working class that has a genuine socialist program to ensure that the working class is not only in power politically, but through nationalization of the key sectors of the economy on the basis of the democratic control and management of the economy, of the industries by the working class. That party is there and is not contested. That party is not there in this election, and therefore the working class shouldn't be holding its breath in these elections and the outcome of it, because what we have is basically different factions of the capitalist party serving the working class a same set of failed policies in this country and across the world. Each of them are just telling us how they are going to tweak it here and there, but they are not addressing the fundamental problem. What is the fundamental problem? The fundamental problem is a system of capitalism which, in the period in which we are, is experiencing organic crisis, and not only in this country but globally, can only be managed on the basis of brutal austerity against the working class people. And that's the reason that every policy of the ANC, and I argue, even if you were to put the DA into power, it won't be different. Those policies have ensured a massive transfer of wealth from the working class to the tiny elite of the rich that dominate and monopolize the private ownership of the economy. Look at every measure, right? 10.3 million South Africans are unemployed at the present moment. But even those that are working, half of them are on the minimum wage of 3,800 that can barely make anybody to survive in terms of buying food, in terms of transport, but also 75% of them are actually earning below 6,000 rand according to research. Now, that is a horrific level of poverty, especially for those that are living in informal settlement in conditions of squalor and complete degradation. That's the reason that we have to say revolution, socialism, workers' power is the only solution.